Hey everyone, what's going on in your world? Well, today in my world, I get to work on this gorgeous 1974 Dart. This thing is just a pretty car, but that's not what this video is about. This is about figuring out how we're going to install a universal throttle cable. Welcome back to Prairie Wings. I'm Merle Mayer, and like I said before in the intro, we have to change this throttle cable. Let's take a closer look here. Big block in this car, and yeah, I bugged him that he was racing or getting on it a little bit much, but this is likely due to wear and tear. This is a car from 1974, so it's not the youngest thing out there. Anyway, what we need to do is get this cable out and figure out how we're going to make that universal cable fit in here. So I'm going to flip the camera around. These old Mopars use this very common setup, but this one has been modified for the throttle body and the spacer and so on. So it's not exactly like factory, but that doesn't matter. We're putting a universal cable in it. We're going to be pulling this off, get the cable out. It goes through the firewall way down there. We'll look on the inside real quick. We're going to have to get it out of the firewall up there. And it's a pretty easy procedure. And then, like I said before, I couldn't get the original style in a timely manner. So I picked up this universal cable, and there's lots of them out there. There's some good ones, some knockoffs. They all pretty much look the same, but the quality isn't always the same. So I wouldn't go and buy the cheapest one, but there's a ton of these that look the same. And like I said, they're universal. So we're going to have to do some modifications to this, and they are trimmable. Usually they're crimped on one end. The other end just slips off like I just did there. I do a little bit of a modification to the end that I'll show you about when I'm putting these in. And I guess it's time to quit chitter chattering, and I'm going to get at her. This one's going to suck a little bit because it's behind that big valve cover. So real quick note, this is the clip that goes in to the groove there. And someone modified this one. It had washers stacked in here, and the clip was actually on backwards. So if you look at the clip, there's actually a little spot that you can get it off, but now it hit the floor. Starting with this kit, first thing that I do is disassemble the whole thing. Now this end isn't going to come off the cable. This end obviously comes off, and this comes off. And the reason you're doing this is because this is all trimmed to fit. So we need to figure out how long the original housing is. And the other note is, if you look at the ball on here, this is going to work in this Chrysler throttle. I'll give you a close-up, but you just pull this end off. This in this car is discarded. So once you pull that end off, we have both that fit and work. So this we're putting to the side for now, and we're just going to figure out how long this needs to be. Now in this car, that valve cover's right here. So this is going to be a little bit of a situation to get in. But we are going to take out all the modified stuff out of the firewall that whoever put washers and stuff in, well, we could actually leave it in. It's a rubber grommet, so maybe that's what we'll do. I think this should fit through the original hole. Yeah, it should be fine. I did a quick test fit. This, the way the firewall hole is, it's a little big, so I just grabbed a couple washers, and I can get this through. It goes through on an angle. When you tighten it up, it'll straighten, but you'll find that this is actually really nice and flexible. They're very good. So that is just in there with the tools that God gave us to tighten it with, no other man-made tools. And I threw the cable in it just to see what it looks like and how it feels, because I will show you going through the firewall, which the factory cable was a little stiff because of it. Because this is a big block in here, you can see there is almost, like it's a tight bend. And the cable now in this, it just feels really glassy smooth. Sorry for the bad camera work there, but it just slides in and out of there like nothing. It's beautiful, even though there's that kink in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the outer housing and get ready to cut it. We'll put the inner one in and figure that out in a bit. I now understand why they had washers stacked in there, and the bracket or the clip-on backwards is because this grommet was all pooched and probably ready to pull through. Anyway, this is garbage replaced with those washers, and then the other note we'll look at later, throttle bracket. Well, we'll just show you this real quick. This diameter here is what I'm going to be talking about. The original Mopar throttle bracket right here, this threads on the universal cable that you see here is the same size as what that is. So you could make a whole new bracket and everything. I'm choosing not to. I'm choosing to use this original bracket, which is totally fine. It's going to save us time. Now, if this had a really bad kink and you had to go around corners and stuff, these cut to fit cables are really nice because you could do a loop, you could do whatever you want with it. This one here, I am going into the original shape and testing, and there is no resistance. So how I actually mark these cables is I go to where I want this cable to be so that I still have a bit of adjustment, and I wrap black tape around it, and I'll show you in a minute why I do that. But this is my mark that I'm putting on here, and I want to make sure that it still looks good. About center of that cable. Yep, that looks wonderful. I have this cable very lightly clamped in a set of soft jaws. And now what I want to do is I want to cut in the middle of that tape mark. If we take a look at this, so it's cut. Hopefully we can see that. Not real frayed. It looks pretty good. I'm going to clean it a touch more with the grinder, but what we have inside that cable is like a Teflon liner with a steel braiding over top. And that's what makes it so smooth. The liner is actually quite large compared to the inner cable. This is now that piece that we're clamping in the Dodge part. Normally this comes with 2 nuts on. Those will get discarded as well. That cable pushes into here. So if we look at this now, the cable doesn't want to fit in with the tape on. It pushes the tape back. And what kind of is sucking here is the cable itself was flaring a bit. You gotta hold your tongue just right. Work it in there. And then I'm gonna take, I mean, it's personal preference. I don't like this black on here. Once I get it all worked in where I want it, I'm gonna take a little pick and pull that tape out of that edge. That right now is home. There is a nice little cable. I have crimped this, and how did I crimp it? Well, we'll put a link in the description to the video I have on actually crimping lugs on cables or ends on cables. But that's the exact same process that I use. But there's some details that I really want to make sure that you understand is, first of all, the end of this thing, the cable is extremely loose in here. I used to take a plier and do a crimp on this and then put a heat shrink over it. And I heat shrink both ends, whatever. I don't do that anymore. I went to this crimper because I thought, oh, that's way nicer. The problem is when I'm crimping, I put the cable in and it's really free. The very first time I crimped this, I over crimped it and the cable was stuck in there. So I ripped it out, found a drill bit that fit exactly into the sheathing and ran into here and drilled it out. So it was an easy fix, but it's something you want to be aware of. Now, when I crimp, I'm very careful that I don't over crimp it where I don't have any resistance. But because I screwed up the very first time, I actually still use the same procedure, and I still take a drill bit that fits in there and I run it in the end just to be careful. And you want to know what? That drill bit usually is a little bit tight in there by the time this is all tight. So be very careful that you don't over crimp this thing. And this is aluminum, so it cracks up and whatever. So be very careful that you don't over crimp it or you'll end up crimping this end right off. I think you'd be a big disaster. So there we go. That is ready to go. How I choose to set this up is I put this cable in this holder. It's just finger tight again in the middle of where the adjustment would be. I'm going to move this now because things have changed, but we'll do that after. And so I pull this cable to pull the throttle pedal all the way into the idle position, and I hold it up to here. I have measured how deep this is, so I know where to put a mark. So I mark this cable that I can see where I want it cut quite nicely with a little Sharpie here. And now I let that go. This throttle goes all the way to the floor. I'm just going to pull the floor mat out so it goes a little bit farther. It's spring loaded, so I'm going to go get a helper. All right, just a quick note. This is the throttle body. I can pump this much as I want. You're not going to get fuel squirted in. If you're doing this on a carbureted job, every time you pump this, you're going to squirt fuel in. So you want to make sure you start this at the idle where it's marked. Now I have this no floor mat underneath it. The carpet's there, but Billy is pushing this thing right into the carpet hardcore. So when I pump this back, I don't want to make it all the way to the idle spot. And I would say I'm about 3/8 of an inch away from where I have it marked. So we'll go let Billy out of the car here. And Billy's holding that in there. And it is like the rod is pushed like right into the carpet. So we have full throttle travel. All right, thanks, Billy. So how I treat this is I knew I had about 3/8 of an inch. So my mark is right there. I cut it 3/8 of an inch longer. And then what I do, you wouldn't need to. I cut this with a big side cutter, but I heat the end up with a torch and melt the ends together. You're going to lose like just microscopic amount. But now this can't fray. And we have the adjustment to make it so that this doesn't have enough force to actually yank out, because this is held in with a little set screw. And if you make it too short, your foot is going to be able to probably eventually pull this out of the end. So you want to have it where when you push it all the way to the floor, this throttle body right there has just the end of its movement there. I didn't put the inside on the pedal together because I wanted to play in here. So when you stick this in, know how deep it is, put a felt mat on it, and then when you put it in, kind of twist it in the opposite direction so you know it's going in without fraying the cable. And then tighten up the set screw. I just got to give it a final tighten. I'm going to get all the rest of this stuff kind of tightened up, and then we will do this adjustment last. Okay, back inside the car here now. We have to get the end of the cable ball into that bottom hole. And then it's very important that you don't forget there's that little piece that was pulled out of that hole in the beginning. If you don't have it, hopefully you didn't lose it, but it just pushes back in there. That prevents cable from coming out. Everything is tight in the firewall there too now. I have Billy back in the car now, smashing that throttle right to the floor. This is loose. And so what I want to do now is make sure we have full throttle travel. So I rotate this all the way to full travel. I don't want to be forcing it, but I want it all the way to full travel. Then I grab this throttle cable and put it to the extent that we want it, which it's too loose. And I probably could have made the cable a little bit shorter, but right now it is going to work fine. We have full travel. It's still tightly held in. It's beautiful. I just got to tie this out of the way now and maybe reroute it. I'm not sure. Yeah, I can reroute it underneath. We'll tie it out of the way. And then this is ready for a test drive. I'll just make sure with Billy out that we have a little bit of looseness in here so that the throttle, we don't want this being held up by this cable at all. So it is perfect. Everything is buttoned up in here and all the tools are put away. I am pretty confident this is going to be a good repair. Fender covers off. So let's just take a quick peek. I already tested it, but if you look at the gas pedal in here, it is just extremely smooth, way nicer than the factory cable stuff was. But unfortunately, I have to take this out for a little bit of a test drive. Before we take this out on the road, though, you got to hear what this thing sounds like. It is so sweet sounding.
What are those?
Those are my Crocs. This throttle in this is just smooth as glass. Before, with the factory cable, especially where it was bent around the valve cover, was a bit clunky. And right now this thing is just beautiful. I'm not going to get on this car, it's not mine, and I haven't been asked to do any repairs that would require a full throttle run, but as of right now this thing is fixed, it's beautiful, he's going to be able to cruise. I really hope that this video helped you if you're having some throttle cable issues. See how these cables are, how they work, how to deal with them. And so please like, share, and subscribe.